I mean, there was so many moments, but I think if I had to pick one, I think perhaps the most life-changing or transformative moment of this retreat was when we were doing our inner child breath work. So it's a simple guided breath work exercise. And about 20 minutes in, went to a really deep place from a physical sensation point of view, but also identifying a memory that I haven't even been able to make a connection with years in therapy. So, years in therapy bills and never made that connection. 20 minutes of breath work. I've got a really strong physical sensation and this really clear connection that I know I can do some work with. And not only is that helpful in a psychological sense, but also helps me with some of the inner work that we're trying to do on the retreat and beyond. So I'd say that probably felt quite life-changing, because it's something that comes up in my day-to-day, and I've actually never even known that connection existed. So I guess if I had to distill it down, 20 minutes with Graham and a breath work, or years of therapy bills that may or may not even get you there, feels pretty life-changing. Yeah. My first retreat experience, I knew very little. I hadn't done Enneagrams courses. All I knew was it was like, oh, I should check this out. Thinking I've just signed up to, a relaxing retreat, and I needed a bit of time, just a bit of a pause and a bit of a reset. So kind of came in with nothing. And I'd say my first retreat experience was confronting and challenging and demanding in every way. On the second day, I was ready to run and run away. But I'm so glad I stayed. And I think part of it was like, of course, it's challenging. Of course, there was a lot of discomfort. The littlest things triggered me in the biggest ways. But all that highlighted was, it was like, wow, like I thought I'd done this much work, but it was like, I have so much work to do. And I'm so grateful to actually finish the retreat, because it wasn't necessarily, nothing, big happened for me in that retreat, except for maybe a lot of discomfort, a lot of challenge, a lot of learning about myself, my body, my mind. But it was actually what happened after. So the weeks that followed, everything that Graham talks about, things unfolding, things shifting, things changing around you. You could see those proof points. And I'm quite a practical, logical person. If there isn't a practical, logical, or even a scientific connection, it isn't for me. So that kind of kept me really motivated to keep doing the work, and, being intermittent, a little bit in and out, not as diligent as I'd like to be. So this year was very different. I did come in with a calmer mindset, really committed, not necessarily expecting anything of the retreat, but it was the most blissful 6 days that I've had. I've had just some really beautiful experiential moments that just make me believe that I was like, actually, even for someone like me, who's always so up here, always in their head, logical, go, 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 life is really good. I think I've got it because I'm always working in the head. To actually have a couple of moments where I experience things in my body, and that body to mind connection and life connection that I've never been able to make. But also thought I don't have the capacity, because that's not me. I'm not like these people that are so good or so advanced. That was really, really profound to go, actually, I do have the capacity if I apply myself, if I trust the process. And there are a lot of practical applications for when I walk out and at the end of the retreat. That's a really hard one, because I feel like I've got a lot more work to do to get there. But I think maybe a couple of small things, because it's like, I guess, again, those practical connections. And I'll maybe just talk about this retreat. It's like, actually, I didn't even know that I have known I'm a shallow breather at a really surface level. When you've gone to yoga, or even from a work health check point of view, you go to a breathwork consultant, they're like, oh, you should drop your heart rate and deep. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what that means or what that feels like. And I feel like within the last 6 days, my breathing patterns actually changed. Now, that's really profound because that regulates or dysregulates my nervous system very differently. So I know as a mum, you have a lot of those moments where you want to lose your cool, but you're not going to lose your cool. So even something as simple in my day-to-day to just being a little bit more aware and then showing up differently, because if I'm more regulated, I can help show up quite differently in the middle of those meltdowns. And I've got a pre-teenager, like 9, but going on some tween age already. So, with that, I think just even some of the skills that I learn around gentleness and the softness that sometimes doesn't exist in my corporate life. It's actually a really nice, gentle reminder to go, what a big impact it can have on her psychological state. So I'd say in the last 2 years, that's probably been the biggest shift for me, and for us at home. Just showing up differently, and then how everyone else is so different because you're different. I think 2 years ago when I came here, I was probably burnt out, but ignoring it. And this inherent need to be more, to do more, to constantly be on the go, because that's all I've ever known. From my studying to my work life, because the sense of achievement is somehow linked to all these expectations that aren't mine, but that have been projected on me, to actually let go of those expectations. So now that doesn't feel really practical from a body work sense and what you sometimes think you're doing at the retreat. So in that respect, there's like actually the unlearning and the letting go to go, actually, I can have a really balanced, fulfilling life. I can do less and be more. And I feel like that's the biggest shift in my work. To go, I'm working less hours, but they're more focused. I'm delivering way better outcomes, but I'm in environments where my craft is appreciated, respected. I'm around people that lift me up. So I feel like, oh yeah, I'm building the skills and the talent and the craft that I actually really love, but I'm doing less. But I have more. I have more of everything. I have more time to develop and grow into my projects or areas that I'm interested in that I sometimes didn't. So actually, even on the work front, it feels way more fulfilled and way more abundant by doing less. It's probably the weirdest or the only explanation that I can give. As someone who thought they'd done the work, whether that's through therapy, whether that's through different kind of retreats, and then meeting Graham. So obviously the initial experience was quite confronting, but he's someone who can challenge you in the most challenging and confronting ways while holding you in the most gentlest way when you're going through, you feel broken, you feel the most vulnerable that you have. And I don't think I've ever felt that seen. When he's looking at you, you just see, it's like, you see everything I don't want to say, and I know you already know it, and I know you're going to say exactly what I need to know in this moment. So I think he's been an incredible teacher. So the right amount of challenge with just the perfect amount of that gentleness and holding that space for me to just be me and grow and then go on that journey.